Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
The Democrats decided the day of the night of the election that they wanted to impeach this president. They lied to the American public for the last 2 years.
Oh my God! So they're gonna find Barr in contempt. That's what they're doing. They're super excited about this. Only the second person to be found in contempt in the cabinet of a president, I believe, in history. The first one was, oh yeah, that guy, Eric Holder. Does this matter? You don't care. You don't. Let's be real. You don't care at all about any of this. It is such a game. It is. I was on a show today, and I said it was Kabuki Theater. That's all it is, right? I was on out there in beautiful Las Vegas, station KXNT. Love them. And I just said it's Kabuki Theater. It's fake. None of it's real. The people that care about this are the people that are watching it incessantly on cable television, which is a minute amount of people in the population, and the media, and the people inside the Beltway. The rest of us, we're moving on. How many of you even know that Eric Holder was found in contempt?
When the Oversight Committee held Attorney General Eric Holder in contempt, more than 250 days had passed between the subpoena and the committee's vote to hold him in contempt.
Wow, that's a lot. How many has it been? Like 30 seconds? It's just a game. They ask the questions. It's more about the people asking the questions. It's about the big grandstanding. And then what you have is you have Trump going out. Fine, if this is what we're going to do, Barr, we're executive privilege across all of this thing. There we go. Case closed. End of story. This is, I want 100% of something. And they're like, we're going to give you 75% of this, and some of it's because of grand jury. Stuff's under the grand jury, so by law, you can't have that. And, you want 100% of something? Yeah. Or no, you're going to get 100% of nothing now, right? Nothing. You get 100% of nothing. Nothing.
Now Nadler is doing something much different. He has asked the Attorney General to break the law, and if he will not break the law, he will hold him in contempt.
There you go. It is a giant joke. Period. Case. End of story. This means nothing to you or I. Did you guys have to get up today and go to work? You did. Did you win a trophy? No. Is Barr going anywhere? No. Does this change anything? No. And eventually we'll hear from Mueller, and then we'll go from there. At this point in time, though, it matters so very little. It doesn't. It matters so very little. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet us. Last night, they broke the big news.
The New York Times reports that in the 1980s and 90s, Donald Trump cultivated a public persona of success. At the same time, his business deals lost more than $1 billion. According to the paper, Mr. Trump reported losses of just over $46 million in 1985 from his core businesses, and those losses continued to mount. During this time period, the paper reports Mr. Trump lost more money than nearly any other individual American taxpayer. The president's attorney disputes the report, calling it false and defamatory.
So what does this matter? It doesn't. You know what? I've said all along, I think Trump's biggest thing about his tax returns is he doesn't want to let everybody know that he's not as rich as he thinks he is. Oh, he's well beyond anything that we have. All of us collectively don't have the kind of coin that he does. A lot of what he has is it's paper. It's all on paper. It's not cash. He's paper rich, paper wealthy. Oh, I'm sure he's got millions around, but he may be worth $3 billion. But if you go against his liabilities, he may be worth $500 million to $1 billion. Still a ton of money, but it's not what everybody thinks it is. And here's the other thing. What he did, if you ask any tax attorney, if you ask anybody who has any idea, it's just standard operating procedure. One of the biggest things that I think would also upset people, and it has upset people, look, he lost a ton of money, but he took a ton of losses. Didn't pay taxes when he did make money because he took so much losses, and that's part of the incentive of getting people to invest in certain things. If you're going to take away all of those things, why in God's name would anybody invest if the only thing they could do is maybe make a little bit of money, take a ton of risk, and lose a lot more? People aren't going to do that. It's not a win-win there. There needs to be carryover. There needs to be these kind of things. If you go and look at this and you break it down and you have an understanding of taxes at all, which is not 99% of the people, you're like, yeah, that's exactly what anybody would have done. Any opportunity, right? That you're going to have a chance to write something off and you're going to be able to carry it over and over and over. By the way, go look at Bezos and Amazon and you wonder why they don't pay taxes. Go look at the first 20 years they were in operation, how much money they lost. It wasn't brilliant. It's just smart. That's it. Smart. And I think one of the things that for a lot of people that they don't understand, and I think this is where Trump tries to keep, again, he lost a ton of money. At that time, being a developer at that day and age in Atlantic City, probably not the best thing. Those casinos, they bled everybody dry. It wasn't just him. It wasn't like his casino failed and everybody else's succeeded. The entire place fell apart. It's also one of those things when you know the codes and you know the game and you push the buttons and you do the things that you do, and you find out that you're able to take a loss here, make $1 million here, carry this over here, depreciate this, bring all of this stuff over here, make a ton of money, and then you write some of that off against it. The next thing you know, you look up and you're like, wow, I've sheltered myself pretty well and I've made a pretty penny. Oh yeah, didn't even think of that. Yeah. It's a game, man. It is a game. It's a shell game, but it's all legal. And that's something I think people need to understand. But if you're somebody who's trying to be, talk about all of these things, talk about your tax cuts and try to, even though, yes, the 1% benefits, as far as dollar size, a lot more than the average person does, but that's given that they're making more money. If you're trying to distance yourself some way in that tax world, showing that you didn't pay, even though you weren't starving and broke and you still had your plane and life was pretty good, and that you didn't have to pay taxes at certain times of the year. Man, if you know anybody who's wealthy, there are years where they'll report no income and they'll take losses and they'll carry it over. They're like, I don't need it. I'll carry it over a couple, 2 or 3 years. When I was when I raised money for several big companies in the oil and gas world, and we did quite well. Some of our wells did extremely well. We take depreciation for the first year. You take as much as you possibly can. You work your way down, and it's really crazy the way that you can play these games in the tax world. But it's all set up to be legal, and people need to understand that. So what looks like a loss on paper, yeah, it is, but it's paper. Well, that's illegal. It's not. And that's, I think, frustrating to a lot of people. If these things start to get out, you wonder why. Oh, the rich keep getting richer. The rich just know how to play the game better. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. It's so funny, though, listening yesterday to all of this coming out and the excitement by some of these people, right? Like just, oh, my God.
This is the Midas touch guy, okay, who lost more money than almost any other American. There are hundreds of millions of us. In 2 years alone, his losses were more than double the next biggest loser in the country.
He ran as a successful businessman who was going to be bringing the art of the deal making to the White House.
He uses that word all the time. He calls people losers, and he has such disdain and drips with horror when he uses that word. And yet he was literally the biggest loser in the country.
Let me ask you a question. Is he a loser now? Do you have what he has? If we were to set out, do you have what he has? Probably not. I'm going to venture to say you do not. And even, look, every business person in the world will tell you there's ups, there's downs, how you write them out. Look, there's no doubt in my mind he's done stuff that's shady. There's no doubt in my mind he's got some loans that have been shady from foreign banks like Deutsche Bank and a few other places, and he's done some stuff. There's no doubt in my mind. But when you sit back and you say, in the overall scheme of things, was he down a bunch? Yeah, he was. Is he up now? I think he is. Is he up as much as maybe people think he is in his base? Probably not, but we'll never know. In fact, I'll venture to guess that he probably doesn't even know how much money he has or doesn't have. Because when you get to that point where you got, God knows what, how much property do you think he has? What do you think some of those things are worth in today's marketplace in Manhattan and stuff? When you're seeing just singular penthouses go, not giant buildings, but singular penthouses go for $50 million, what do you think those things are going for? Couldn't tell you. It's a shell game. He played it better. Did he have times where he was down? Absolutely. Has he done some shady things? Oh, I'm probably certain he probably has done some stuff where you're like, ooh. But in the end, this was no more than, can we embarrass this guy? Is that possible? Yeah, it's probably possible. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. By the way, as they're going after, Barr and the contempt and stuff, it's funny because, McCarthy still has a chance to fire off something about immigration.
Everybody in America realizes the crisis at the border, except the Democrats in Congress.
Yeah, and it's funny that he said that because today they're inching closer to something we've talked about for the last several weeks here, which is Border Patrol agents may be the first in line to be able to do the credible fear hearing. In doing so, this is massive because this speeds up the process as far as immigration goes illegally here, because that first hearing is usually 2, 3, 4 years away. Imagine if the agent spends an extra half an hour to an hour plus with them, able to determine whether or not there is a real credible fear based on the amnesty that they're applying for. That speeds it up to the point where they have, after that, just 10 days before they see a judge, not 2, 4, 5 years, who knows how long. I've heard 2 years. When I was with the border agents, they're saying it's up to 5 years sometimes before you even see your first judge. So that'll speed up the process. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. By the way, the Royals. Oh, yes, the Royals! Yes, the Royals today have announced that the baby will be called Archie. I'm not quite sure if it's Archibald or Archie. He's getting called Archie. It doesn't matter. So they're going to call him Archie. Yes. Is that a royally name? I don't know. I don't know if that's a royally name. Archie. The first thing that came to my mind is like, Jughead? And then the Archies. Great band. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Please do tweet at us. Kids, Butcher Box. Barbecuing. It's amazing. I love it. You love it. Who doesn't love it? People who are communists, they don't love barbecuing. The rest of us, we do. Yeah, I love it. Grass-fed, grass-finished beef, free organic ranging chicken. You got the best sockeyed salmon, right? Just amazing sockeyed salmon. They got all of this incredible stuff, different cuts, the best pork you're ever going to taste. The quality's like nothing else. And I love the fact that there's no hormones, no antibiotics ever added. You can customize your box, and they got the barbecue bundle right now. It's the ultimate barbecue bundle going on. You get $20 off your first box. You also get 2 New York strip steaks, baby back ribs, 2 pounds of ground beef. It is incredible. It's less than $6 a meal to have the kind of food that you're not going to find anywhere else. You're not going to get the cuts and quality in the store, only from Butcher Box. Get your Butcher Box today. Grab a hold of the ultimate barbecue bundle right now. Save yourself $20 off that first box. Go to butcherbox.com/Chad. 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 Chad Benson Show.
Being antisocial sucks. Hang with Chad's friends on Facebook, The Chad Benson Show. And if you just need some alone time, head on over to Twitter at Chad Benson Show. Either way, we can't wait to meet the real you.
We've talked for a long time about approaching a constitutional crisis. We are now in it.
Jerry Nadler, he's not fun. Some people are fun. I spoke earlier today to Congressman Andy Biggs. And he said, I go, do you call him Gerald or Jerry? He goes, I call him committee leader. And we just move on. He goes, I don't want to give a sense that we're have any kind of relationship. I think for some of them out there, it is that way. So you're holding this guy in contempt. Nothing's going to come out of it. It's like when they pass these symbolic bills, like Arizona, they're going through this thing where we're passing a bill basically with no penalty, just saying, hey, porn is it's bad. So there. You're like, what? Yeah, we just want to let you guys know that. We're taking our stand. It's kind of a stand. It's like a little stand. It's not a big stand, but we want everybody to know. It's just so ridiculous. It is pantomime, kabuki theater, whatever you want to call it. What I do know is it's not doing anything for us. It just isn't. It's not doing anything for you or for me. Nothing's getting done that needs to get done. We're just in a holding pattern of, and you know what? Quite frankly, I hold all of them in contempt. Can we do that? Is there a law, Producer Phil? Can you look that up, see if there's some sort of law where we can hold them all in contempt?
I'll get right on that.
Buffoonery? Yeah, just see. I want to see if we can hold them all in contempt of buffoonery. By the way, the royal baby name, I got the full baby name. It's not just Archie. I was laughing about this. The full baby name, Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor. That is a lot of names. I'm going to call him Big Old Mount. What's up, Mount? Mountbatten Windsor. Oh, fantastic. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Love hearing from you. By the way, for those of you not keeping score, there's this country called Iran, and we got out of the deal. We said we don't want to be a part of this. We don't think you guys are going to do anything about it. But lo and behold, they are like, oh, we're going to do all this stuff. And the Europeans like, we're going to hold your feet to the fire. But wait a minute.
Today's announcement from Tehran about its commitments under the deal is an unwelcome step. I urge Iran not to take further escalatory steps and to stand by its commitments.
Yeah. I don't think that's Jeremy Hunt right there. I don't think that's going to happen, actually. I think Iran told the Europeans, hey, you guys got 6 months, 60 days to make the Americans get rid of those sanctions that are hurting us. Otherwise, we're going to start doing all the things that we said we weren't going to do. So the piece of paper they have written, and they're trying to hold their bargain up, isn't going the way they thought. So we'll see how that goes. But there's news that will not be covered today, but we covered it because we care. We care about you. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Uber drivers not happy. Lyft drivers aren't happy either as well. Talk about that. Immigration, crazy. And getting worse. But does anybody care? No, because contempt. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Drivers unite! Stand for your rights! 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 Drivers unite! Stand for your rights!
Oh, man. Those are the rideshare people. They're on strike today. Uber went public, and they're pissed because they're all making millions of dollars, and we're getting nothing, and we demand. Hey, I pinged you. Is there any way you can take me where I need to go? I need to go to the street. So different parts of the country are facing the rideshare quietness today. If you're wondering why maybe your rideshare didn't work today, you're like, hey, I've been calling the Uber guy. Nobody's showing up. And the lady at Lyft didn't show up. Why is that? Well, because a lot of them went on strike. Not everywhere. But Uber's going public, and darn it, they're pissed. They're angry. They want stuff. They're demanding stuff. They're angry about all kinds of stuff, from low pay to, I don't know, they want guarantees. They want work stability. They want workman's comp. They want all of these things. They don't want to be any of the things that they are right now, which is independent contractors. Darn it, they want this. They demand it. It is their right.
Both state courts in the United States as well as courts in other countries, there have been numerous cases, and both companies have warned that they really need to keep drivers as independent contractors if they want to ever reach a point of profitability.
Yeah. Remember how much fun we made fun of Trump because of all that money he lost? Oh, my God, he lost all that money. Just to give you, over a 10-year period, you lost $1.170 billion, give or take, close to $1.2 billion. Oh, my God, that was over a 10-year period. Uber this year, they only lost $1.8 million this last calendar year. And the year before that, they lost $2.2 billion. So $4 billion in the last 2 years they've lost. And you're demanding? Here's my thing. Go get a better job. When I heard them talking today, I was like, go get a better job. Well, we want this. We demand this. I demand that you do the job that you... Nobody's forcing you. This is the thing. When I hear people bitch about, well, I demand this or nobody is forcing you to do this job. Well, they can't get a better job. Or they can't... Why can't they? Because we're finally going to, when you start asking questions of why can't you, we're going to chisel down to the nuts and bolts of what it is that you can and can't do, and sometimes the choices you have made in your life to find out why you're in the position that you're in. So let's start with I can't get it better. Why can't you? This is all you're qualified to do. But I demand. I know, it sounds great. Demanding's fun. It's a lot of fun. We should all do it. But I'm just asking the question, why? Demand all you want. But this is the job. The job, this isn't a surprise. When people are like, I can't live off this, or people are like, I can't believe it, and they're always surprised about how little they make, I'm always like, did somebody force you to take that job? Producer Phil, has anybody ever put a gun to your head and said you have to do this job?
No.
Okay, good. See? That's it. Go get a better job. I know I sound like a jerk, but I'm just being honest, right? Like, go get a better job. If you're not happy with the job you have, find out what it is that's going to make you happy. Find out what it is that you think that you absolutely want, and then figure out a way to go and get to the place that you want to get that job. Within reason. Obviously, you're 3'2" and you want to be center for the Lakers. Probably not going to happen. Unless they have a little Lakers. Maybe. I don't know. But realistically, if you don't want to be an Uber driver and you don't want to be a Lyft driver, figure out what it is that you want to do that's going to better yourself. But demanding all of these things, you knew what the job was. It wasn't like they said, all right, we're going to give you $100,000 and you got in there, you're like, we lied, psych. No, it didn't work that way. You knew what it was.
It's a tricky balance because you want fares to be low for consumers so you can get to work or, out to play on the cheap, but they also have to pay drivers who provide those services. And in their statement they gave us, they said they've stand by drivers, and they've had a few programs in recent months to really increase that driver engagement. But at the end of the day, drivers say their pay is still falling.
Yeah. But you don't have to work there. That's just it. When I see people out there in the streets and they're angry, you don't have to work at McDonald's. You don't have to be a Lyft driver. You don't have to do any of those things. Figure out what your options are to better yourself, then go do it. Then go do it. It's that simple. They're not happy because they don't like the fact that the people in the higher ups are making a ton of money today as it goes public. They're not happy over the fact that algorithms are deciding a lot of what their future is. They don't like any of that stuff. That's the future. That's the world. You deal with it. You may not like it. That's exactly where we are. Period. Case closed. End of story. Everybody knows numbers, data, algorithms. They're here. This is it. So if you're unhappy, and I have been places where I've been unhappy at jobs. Sometimes the job sucks. The people are cool. Sometimes the people suck. The job is great. But I've tried to do the best that I can in improving myself and putting myself in positions to give me the things I want in life. Not everybody can do that. Why? I just want to know why. Why can't you do that? Well, you got a family. I got this. Okay, but those are choices you made before. Why can't you now? Through hard work and sacrifice, you can get a lot of places in this world, but those are icky terms. Hard work? Sacrifice? What? You don't think I work hard? I don't know. I don't know you. But nobody's holding a gun to your head. If you don't like where you're working, try to do the best you can in a place where they're dying to find employees, good ones. Go figure out what you need to do to get a better job. Nobody's holding a gun to your head. Nobody. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. I do love to hear from you guys each and every single day. I found this to be really interesting. It was there's a new nutritional study, and I think we're doing a little wordplay here when it comes to something, and see if you can pick it out.
Did your mom ever say something to you like, if you eat your carrots, your hair will be naturally curly? Mine did. It was enough to get me to dig right into those veggies. My hair's still straight, but I love carrots. Now a study published in the Journal of Nutrition, Education, and Behavior says Mom was onto something. Researchers found that kids' eating habits can be improved when parents use positive reinforcement, like those lentils will make you run faster, not eat your lentils or you won't get dessert.
So what I took from that is positive reinforcement, a.k.a. lies, are okay in some ways. So positive reinforcement. Hey, those lentils are going to make you run faster. Hey, guess what? That lima bean right there, that thing right there is going to make you taller. That's positive reinforcement. I used to call it a lie. I don't know what you call it. So that's what we've done now. I'm just telling them it's positive reinforcement. It's all it is. It's positive reinforcement. Just positive. Yeah, I remember as a kid, right? Like, don't sit too close to the TV or go blind. Which is totally a lie. But that's positive reinforcement because you do. You moved away from the television. Might strain your eyes. But yeah, you moved away from the television. We're going to go blind. You know, the other thing that would have made you go blind, also a lie. Totally 100% lie. 100% lie. Just like, hey, these shoes are going to make you run faster, jump higher, all the. It's funny, but look, in this, if you're going to lie about something, I'm okay with that because healthy eating habits are great. But I just like how it's a little bit of a positive reinforcement instead of, hey, we're going to lie to the kids and say if they do this, they're going to be taller, they're going to be faster, they're going to be this, they're going to be that. So we can get them to eat lima beans. Producer Phil and I were talking. You are not a lima bean fan. Is this correct, Producer Phil?
I'm not a big fan of the lima bean, no.
No. Now, it's weird because I have the palate of a 7-year-old, but I do not mind a lima bean, which is odd because of all the things you would think, ooh, why would anybody eat that? I don't mind a lima bean, and I can eat it just regular, which is so weird. And my mom never had to tell me anything other than eat your damn food. That's pretty much about it. Just eat your damn food, period. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You could tweet at us. So Trump, of course, you know, he's a big failure and blah, 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 blah. And this is all news. They broke the news to everybody last night in the New York Times, except for if you ever watched The Apprentice.
But it wasn't always so easy. About 13 years ago, I was seriously in trouble. I was billions of dollars in debt. But I fought back and I won. Big league. I used my brain, I used my negotiating skills, and I worked it all out. Now my company's bigger than it ever was, it's stronger than it ever was, and I'm having more fun than I ever had.
There's that. Yeah, but we really got to see it. And then what you saw, if you look, it's all a game, and I had so many people texting me today about, you know, how dare you stick up for this? And I'm like, I'm not sticking up for him. Look, there's no doubt. I still think that there's some stuff in there, a little bit shady, some stuff in there that I look at and I think, you know, there's some things in there that I'm sure if you saw some of the loans in the last several years, that you'd maybe question some of those things. But going back to that time, the thing that he did, and people texted me today and said, I just don't think it's fair that somebody should be able to do that. I'm like, you can do that. No, I can't. I'm not allowed to do something like that. Why? Because you don't have billions of dollars in property. That's why. Neither do I. I would love to be able to play a tax shelter game, right? Set up foundations and do all of those kind of things. That would be fantastic, right? Very philanthropy. Very, what are you doing? I'm playing a little philanthropy game tonight. Where that's why we encourage people with a lot of these laws. We don't force you to give to charity, but we encourage you through shelters, through taxing. Hey, we're going to let you write this off, right? You want to give money here to a charity? You can write some of that off. We encourage people to invest by doing what? Saying, hey, if you are to lose money, we want you to try things. If you are to lose money in a situation like this, you'll be able to carry it over in other things because we want you to be able to do things. If you take those things away, guess what happens? Not everybody's going to give freely. investment will go in the toilet. So there's a lot of encouraging and a weird kind of like, we're not going to twist your arm and make you do it, but we will kind of lead the way. It could be a win-win. Do I think he's probably done some shady stuff? Oh, yeah. I ain't got no doubt about that. Right? I got no doubt about that. In fact, I think the other night, the Met, talk about elitism, right? The Met Gala, they have it every year. Everybody dresses up all wacky and weird, and the New York Times, it's to raise money for, arts and whatnot. And because, again, they're more woke and they understand better than the rest of the country. Because, hey, Jared Leto showed up with his head. Literally, he showed up in an outfit holding his head. Yeah, that's the height of elitism and snobbery. But it's fun, right? But I guarantee you look at all of those people, what are they doing? They're giving money to who? To the Met. They're giving money to arts, and what do you think they're going to do? They're giving it, and they're not going to write it off? There's no tax shelter in any of these things as they donate all this money to arts and whatnot? Hell yes. Absolutely. It's a game. And his people played the game pretty damn well. They did. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You could tweet at us, touch a little bit on immigration, and somebody's back. Who is this? He is back from the cold. He is back from being in purgatory. He is back. Chad Benson Show.
Serving up talk radio medium rare and dripping with irony. It's Chad Benson.
About 3 years ago, Billy Bush was riding high, a new gig on the Today Show, and then the Trump tape.
You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab him by the
The clip from a 2005 Access Hollywood interview with then apprentice boss Donald Trump. Bush was fired from the Today Show after his public image took a hit for laughing along with what many considered to be crude commentary. Now Bush's time in the penalty box appears to be over. He'll host Extra Extra starting in the fall, a rebranding of the celebrity news show Extra. Bush tells People magazine that now he's a better version of the man he was.
Oh, for the love of Pete. That's what he has to say. Good God. Here's my question. What if, and by the way, the guy who said that, he didn't get fired. He got hired. President of the United States. What if, and this is just a what if, Billy Bush was at a comedy night and somebody said that and somebody heard him? Would he be in as much trouble? Right? Because comics say all kinds of things. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. Comics have been known to say a lot of stuff. They've been known to go over at times and say stuff for the shock value of it all. But is that going to be the new thing now? That's what I think is coming. We heard you were at a comedy club last night and they made fun of somebody with who knows what, special needs or somebody who was gay. And we found that you doing that is offensive. And you also liked a Facebook page of that comic who was offensive. So we must get rid of you. I wouldn't be surprised if that's coming. I wouldn't. That's the kookiness of the world we live in. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You could tweet at us. Do love hearing from all of you. Yesterday it was awful. It was horrible, the shooting. People are still trying to put this whole thing together. But another situation where you had somebody who was a hero that needs to be talked about.
I refuse to be a victim. Kendrick refused to be a victim. The other students refused to be a victim. And I will live the rest of my life, whether it be this situation, in any other situation I encounter. I'm not going to let somebody just get the upper hand on me. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I like that. That there is Brendan Bailey, who was one of the people who rushed the shooter. The other one was Kendrick Castillo. That's a name you should remember, because much like UNC, he gave his life, and he wasn't going to be a victim in a situation like that. And I think that's the way people look at this now, is we're not going to allow this to happen. Not on my watch. And the kid last week at UNC who rushed, and everybody said he saved a ton of lives. Yesterday you had two kids who just, boom, It happened, and there was just no thought process. Much like, and I said this earlier, is Flight 93, right? They realized, well, we're hearing what's going on. We're not going to, we may go down, but we're going to go down fighting kind of scenario. It's just you do this, right? It's this kind of, like they said, it's just something that, boom, it happens, you go.
Happy I did. I didn't think consciously I'd do this and then this. It just happened.
Yeah. So, but Kendrick Castillo did lose his life, but he took it upon himself, along with Brendan there, they just did it. And it's sad that we're sitting here and talking in a situation like this about a young person who lost their lives. And again, who knows what this is all about? They made their first appearance today, and I said they because you have two shooters that were in court, one of them being a girl. What that's about in a day and age when you don't see this, right? It's always young males, white males in particular, that do something like this. What was it? Was it a conscious thing? Was it a bullying thing? Were they targeting specific people? It's just, it's awful. But remember the names of the people that were heroes. Don't care about the other two, because the last thing they need is media. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Please feel free to tweet at me. Love, hate. I try to get back to all of you. It's the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
We know the environment around here is just, the partisan charge is intense, but now we see action. And we're not seeing it on just anyone. We're seeing contempt of Congress being voted out of committee on the Attorney General, of all people.
Oh, my God. What will happen? Never in history of histories, except for Eric Holder, like the last time, because this is partisanship and this is what we do. And they know full well that he shows up. You want an unredacted version of something that you know you can't have by law, unless the laws change when it comes to the grand jury. This is it. I talked earlier to Congressman Andy Biggs, Arizona. What did I say to him? Hey, why don't you tell you guys to put up or shut up? If you're going to impeach, just get it done. If you're going to impeach, just do it, and so we can all move on. Well, they've done some action here, Chad. They have. They have. What is that? Well, he didn't show up, and so that's it. Period. Case closed. He didn't show up. And they wanted him there. Nothing's coming out of this. Eric Holder didn't pay a fine or go to jail. Bill Barr is not going to jail. He's not going to pay a fine. Nothing is going to happen. Nothing. Zero, zilch. Nothing is going to happen. Congressman Biggs also told me today, Mueller's supposed to be here a week from today. Don't count on it. Don't count on it. And the Republicans want him there just as much as the Democrats do, but the Democrats want him there a little bit less because the questions that are going to be asked by the Democrats are the usual obstruction, talk us about that. The ones that are going to be asked by the Republicans is, just out of curiosity, how did we ever get to this point? What were the findings early on before they ever brought you in that brought you into this and they came to you and said, here, we did all of this stuff, not spying, but spying to get to this point based on what? So chances are, doesn't want to answer those questions. So he said, don't be surprised if he doesn't show up. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised. At this point in time, I wouldn't be surprised anymore if he showed up on Howard Stern's show. I'd be like, oh, wow, that's how crazy it is. Might be a safer place for him to be, right? But then we're going to find out all about his crazy sex life. Because that's what Howard does. Oh, my Lord. It is nuts, though, right? Like, we're in this situation where all day, all you hear is the rantings of people who are just so over it, and they just come out and they say things, well, just like this.
We've talked for a long time about approaching a constitutional crisis. We are now in it.
I always feel like we're in a constitutional crisis because that's all I hear is we're in a constitutional crisis. We're in a constitutional crisis. We're in a constitutional crisis. You don't even know the kind of thing that we're in. We're in a constitutional crisis. It's never been that way ever before, but we are in this constitutional crisis. And the other thing I always hear,
President of the United States is a wannabe dictator with authoritarian tendencies.
How? Just curious. He's a wannabe dictator. He's a wannabe dictator. That's not getting us anywhere. None of this stuff gets us anywhere at all. None of this stuff moves us forward. None of this stuff gets us closer to the things that need to be done, the things that we need to be paying attention to, the things that need to be happening when it comes to figuring out how we're going to make healthcare more affordable, bringing in better competition, what we're going to do with the cost and the rising cost of prescription drugs in this country, dealing with a border crisis that is massive. Massive. I got a couple text messages last night, and you could text me as well, 323-538-2423, from people who are on the border. Border Patrol agents in McAllen, Texas, listening to KURB. Love you guys. What's up, Sergio? So I got a couple text messages with footage and pictures of what's going on there and what they're doing. Nothing is being talked about. All of that has gone away. And we have a real issue. Now, President Trump, through administrative moves, can do something that we talked about 3-4 weeks ago when I was down at the border talking to the Border Patrol agents, some of the things that they are thinking about doing to help speed along a process, which is allowing them to not only be Border Patrol agents, but immigration agents as well, meaning they're able to ask fear and credible. So you have a credible fear why you're here. So that's the first step. And that would speed up the process when people come here and say they want asylum. Okay, well, now I have to interview you for asylum to find out if you have real credible fear. Are you really in danger? And there is a checklist, and you go through the things that you and you, that being the first thing that they do, which normally would take 2 to 5 years before they would ever see anybody and a judge to go through this. What that does, it speeds up the process. So if somebody's really here because there is credible fear from their government and they can prove that, they'll be released out just like they are now. If they're not, they can be held, and then they have to see a judge within 10 days or something like that to decide what to do from there. That's their second and then last chance, and then they're sent back. That would be huge. Now, they would have to take the Border Patrol agents off the border. They're not taking them all off at once, and train them for a couple months. But it would definitely speed up a process. And that's something that doesn't require a change in the law, but something needs to be done. Not being dealt with. Not being dealt with. Not being dealt with. What do I hear? Taxes. What do I hear? Contempt of Congress. I hold you all in contempt. Every one of you needs to be held in contempt for impersonating politicians that care about the people. Who's with me on that? Frustrating. It is. God, it's so frustrating. It is. But this is where we are right now. This is absolutely where and we're not going to get any closer. It's getting bigger and bigger. Even Nadler, here's something we can agree on.
This is far broader than Republican or Democratic or even the rights of Congress. This is whether we can put limits on the power of the president, any president, and the executive branch, and hold the president, any president, accountable.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. But you wanted to interview Barr today, or the other day, right? You wanted to do that. But you didn't want to do it in the way that has been done since, 1805? Something like that? You wanted to interview him by allowing your staff attorneys to go out and interview. This wasn't a confirmation hearing. That's already been done. No, you wanted to do things that was just, he's like, no, I'm not playing the game that you guys want me to play. And for that, you got pissed. And you're really angry that you don't get to see all of the report. Even though there's stuff under grand jury, that you can't see by law. It's a law. And so what did he do today? Well, just put the whole thing under executive privilege. There you go. So now you get 100% of nothing. Congratulations. You're a winner, chicken dinner. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Please feel free to tweet at me. Here's my thing. I don't mind that you tweet, but if we can't have a conversation, like last night, some of the most vile things that are said, it is amazing that it starts out where, I will try to get back to as many people as possible. I'm not going to get back to everybody. And sometimes somebody will send me, I will get some people that send me 50, 60, 70 text messages in 2 hours. But sometimes you sit there and you're like, wow, what are you angry about? Like, you're not in this. This isn't you, right? You're not on trial. You don't get a trophy. There's no anything. I mean, I understand that you're passionate, but then you cross the line with passion into like craziness by just throwing things out there. And I got called last night a Nazi. That was my favorite one. I got called a libtard, right? Because I dare go against the fearless leader that is Trump. And then it just goes there and just starts to really fall off the cliff with the F-bombs and this, that, and the other. And I just sit there and I just laugh my ass off. I'm like, why are you so angry? Like, what about it makes you that angry over something that is, you can't have a conversation, because the minute you invoke you're a Nazi and he's Adolf Hitler, you already know you've lost, right? Like your argument's over. And when you start throwing out things like libtard and all of this stuff, again, you've lost the argument. You're just now you're hurling names. It's crazy. It is. And I sit back sometimes and I wonder, man, I can't take all of that stuff that serious. I got a life. Right? Like, I want to talk about it and I want to have a conversation, and then you're like, I want to move on. Because there's other things that we should be talking about, like immigration, like drug prices, like health care, right? Like getting infrastructure deal. Remember, we're still just a week removed from like, hey, we're going to get an infrastructure deal done. So they're going to meet in the next week or two to get some sort of infrastructure deal supposedly done. Still don't know where the money's coming from. But hey, we'll see what happens. Maybe nothing will happen. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Arizona, what are you doing? I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you. It's the Chad Benson Show.
Warning, no snowflake zone. Uninformed opinions are in danger of melting. The Chad Benson Show.
A lot of these losses were other people's money. He had bond investors that he didn't pay. He had banks that he didn't pay. He was able to get them to take less.
Yeah, he did. He took some losses. He took some big losses. I was just telling producer Phil and Anthony, we used to like a comeback story, right? We did. And there's no doubt that he took it in shorts. He definitely struggled. There's no doubt. And, he came out today and he's tweeting a bunch of stuff that, because that's what he does. I mean, he gets out and he just, I'll be bigger. And he talked about stuff like,
the president has responded to this. It's pretty interesting. His response embedded in one tweet. You hear him both explaining the reason for the losses. He said, this is how you managed your taxes. And it was for sport. It would seem practically confirming the story because he's explaining why he racked up these losses. It was really a way to game the tax system.
Which is, look, some of that's absolutely true. 100%. Some of that is a game that they play. We've talked about that. It's not right. Well, the code is in there for a reason. When you hear somebody say, we need to tax the wealthy, if you really want to hear somebody who wants to come at taxes in a way, then what you need to hear somebody say is, we need to revamp the tax code. We need to get rid of all of these things. You know why no Democrat will ever say that? Because A lot of their constituents and their donors also benefit from this. If you want to really fix the tax code, if you really want to fix taxes and make the wealthy pay more, then you go out there and say, well, here's the deal. We're going to get rid of all of these write-offs. We're going to get rid of all of these codes that benefit you, all of these shelters. No more. If you give now to a church or a charity, you can't write it off. If you give to the arts, you can't write it off. If you invest money and you lose it, you can't carry it over. Then see what happens. If you want somebody to really take you serious about taxing the rich, that's what they need to say. Not we want to tax the rich more, because that sounds great, but the reality is it's not real. You can tax them at 90%. They're fine with that. Let me tell you what Warren Buffett makes. He probably pays himself $500, maybe $50,000. Maybe 50 grand, 100 grand a year. The rest of it is all in different shelters. That's the way it works. My friend was still is. She's a tax person for the Stars. Hates Trumps, by the way. And Chris Farley was one of her big clients. Another client was David Spade. And I think she told me David Spade paid himself basically like $1 a year. And everything else was put in different shelters and different. It's a game. And it's getting the most for your money. And if any one of us out there had an opportunity to do it in that kind of way where we could live a great life, you're going to do it. Because they incentivize you to do it. It's crazy, but that's the reality of it. So if you want to hear somebody get serious about taxes, then find out who's going to say, well, we're going to change all the codes and take all of these things away from people. And we're going to make capital gains 50%. But know this, when companies' investments die, things dry up, and the market goes to hell in a handbasket, and then people don't give anymore, there you go. But you may get the thing you want, which is you'll tax the rich more.
Arizona's state Senate passed a resolution declaring pornography a public health crisis, saying it perpetuates a sexually toxic environment that damages all areas of our society. 16 senators voted in favor of the measure, 13 against. One who voted against said there are other health issues like measles more deserving of attention. The bill doesn't take any action, but it does cite potential detrimental effects on pornography users, including mental illness and difficulty forming or maintaining intimate relationships. Brian Clark, ABC News.
ABC News. Well, look, this is the way I look at this, right? I think it's silly. Symbolic stuff like this is like there's nothing better to be working on when it comes to pornography, right? I am a male, cisgendered, heterosexual, when I was a kid, I was always looking for my dad's nudie magazines. Every one of you guys listening out there, right? You're like, whoa, well, hey, man, you guys see that? The National Geographic, you see a girl's boob. Whoa. Come on. Well, pornography's bad. It's horrible. It's dangerous. No, parenting. Parenting is the issue. I have an 8-year-old son. Eventually, he's going to become a young man. He's already a little bit girl crazy. And I will tell you this right now. There's going to come a time we have a talk. And that's where the parenting comes in more than the nanny state and symbolic gestures of stupidity about, well, we're telling you it's a crisis when it's really not. It's not a crisis. Parenting crisis we may have in a lot of areas. Right? And we know that some of that stuff is fetishy and it's a little bit odd and it's whatever it is. I mean, hey, different strokes, different folks. You do your thing as long as you're not hurting anybody else. But the reality is a lot of this, to me, is a parenting thing. This is where mom and dad step in and say, look, you're going to see, understand, that's not real world. That's not the way things are. If you really want to worry about something forming relationships, it ain't porn, kids. It's technology that's probably hurting that more than kids realize and parents realize. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. Tweet at us. Let's talk Second Amendment. Is there going to be a buyback? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Give me your gun or else. Cory Booker, Swalwell, they're all running for president. Is there going to be a national registry? Have we even done that before? We'll find out. We got a guy coming on. I think you might like him. Straight ahead. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Why is licensing guns the solution?
Works in states like Connecticut that have done it. They have seen 40% drops in gun violence, 15% drops in suicide rates. Every day in America, we have, in the aggregate, a mass shooting. In my lifetime, more people being killed by gun violence than every single war in our country's history from the Revolutionary War now combined. We must step up and deal with something that is crushing communities, destroying lives, and really just tearing apart families.
Cory Booker right there. Swalwell, everybody, we're getting into this. It's gun time, gun time. They're attacking the Second Amendment. They're not attacking the Second Amendment. They just want common sense gun reform. How about we talk about somebody who gets it maybe a little bit more than others? Matt Larosiere, he is a constitutional attorney at the Cato Institute, contributor to Young Voices. Matt, you hear that, right? Because I hear him talk, and he was asked a question, Cory Booker there, Spartacus himself, about maybe, buybacks or else kind of thing, which feels like gun confiscation. This entire left side of the aisle that's running for president is it's got its eye on that Second Amendment. And after yesterday, another shooting in Colorado, it is one of those things where this isn't going to go anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, well, the lying is really interesting. You can always tell who's on the right side of an issue, when they don't have to lie to back it up. Almost all of the statistics they mention are let's just say creatively interpreted. Like there's no connection between suicide rates and gun ownership or gun laws in any state. That's been proven wrong time and time again. And what suicides have to do with mass shootings is, I mean, maybe Cory could explain it, but I certainly struggle with that.
I always say if you're going to commit suicide, you're going to commit suicide. I mean, if we find out that you got rid of guns and then 100 people, 1,000 more people jump off of bridges, are we going to get rid of bridges?
Right. Well, so that is the one thing that I tend to grant in this, is that guns do make suicide more lethal. It is easier to, guns are kind of an instant switch off solution for people who are trying to commit suicide. It's, the next thing people tend to go to is pills, which doesn't, most of the time, well, guess what? Your body is programmed to kind of throw up when you put poison in it. So it's not as easy, but the argument is never made that, we're going to save suicide victims by locking people in cages who want to protect themselves. No, it's always tied to mass shootings and that type of incredibly rare violence, which we are lucky it is so rare. Statistically, you're least likely to be shot in a school. But people are always talking about the school shootings. It's actually the safest place to be still. And the mass shooting deaths are, generally sub 100 per year, which is pretty like per 100,000. It's pretty statistically insignificant. I mean, it's comparable to Floridians being hit by coconuts. It's not it's not an epidemic.
No, are you sure? Because I hear it's an epidemic, and that's a big word right now. Talking to Matt Larosiere, constitutional attorney over there at the Cato Institute. You hear that word epidemic. It's an epidemic. And then yesterday, of course, something happens, and we don't really get the same kind of issue as far as the 24/7 coverage of this. It happens for a few hours and we find out, well, it wasn't the gun that we don't like. And we all know that gun is semi-automatic, AR-15, all of these things that they come out. It's assault rifle. Got to use the word assault rifle. And my fear has always been this, Matt. I understand that common sense reform or common sense use of enforcing the laws that we have sound great, except for the fact that we know that government doesn't know once you give an inch that you can't take that yard because they said, why not take a little bit more?
Well, and we already have gun control laws that are far beyond what anyone would consider common sense. Anything that you could really think of, I don't know, murder hasn't been allowed for a long time, so that's off the table. People who have been adjudicated mentally incompetent, they can't have guns. And then we have things all the way to, if your evil AK-47 has one too many screws that weren't made in the United States, you could wind up in prison. So, I think we're pretty far beyond, sensible, incremental gun policy. And we're getting into the point where people just want, it's valuable political capital. The rhetoric works. People are sensitive to it. And, the way the media portrays these types of weapons, it's 30 rounds, what are you going after, an army? Well, the reality is a lot more nuanced than that, but people aren't interested in learning more about it. They're just interested in responding to the fear, to the hysteria.
Yeah, a little virtue signaling. They've already tried it once, right? Is that correct? They tried a national registry once, and that kind of just went wah, wah, wah.
So, a national registry has never really happened in the United States. It was known from the beginning that this would only be used to either, later on come after people. And also a main problem, even in the 1930s when they first tried this, was that, it would cause police to respond excessively violently during any interaction with somebody that they knew had a gun. And we've seen this type of thing happen in those few states that have universal gun registration. But we've known it was a bad idea. We knew it was a bad idea in the 1930s. Back then, by the way, the vast and sweeping majority of Americans supported banning all handguns. All right. So even when the vast and sweeping majority of Americans supported banning all handguns, they didn't want a national registry. And then once we had the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, the NICS system that apparently doesn't exist. If you listen to the media right now, they say, there's no background checks. Well, whatever. But when we did get the background check system put in place, it was only put in place if they would agree to destroy all of the records at the end of every single working day, just to prevent the creation of a registry. Because again, at that time it was known that registries could do no good.
Crazy. Talking to Matt Larosiere. He's over there at the Cato Institute, constitutional lawyer. Yeah, I look at all this and I listen to the Swalwells and the Cory Bookers and everybody else that comes out and says it. And I know it's virtue signaling because there's a lot of Democrats out there that are a big supporter of the Second Amendment. And so they have to walk this fine line of what do they do. The reality is, though, what do you think? What's your temperature over there at the Cato Institute? If let's just say, for the sake of argument, Bernie or Cory Booker or whoever, Kamala Harris, who's come out and said, look, I owned a gun. If they got in, what are the chances of them ever really going after these kind of things? And then, because we all know what happens, Matt, you being an attorney, you understand that more than anything else. Everything nowadays goes to one place, and that is the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court's kind of tilted to the right now. What are the chances of anything like this ever coming in where they're going to put in a national registry or anything like that?
Well, let me make one thing extremely clear. The majority of comprehensive and the strictest gun control laws that we have on the books right now were brought by Republicans and supported by Republicans. So it's not really as partisan of an issue as you think. In fact, on net, Barack Obama's presidency was more liberalizing for gun owners than Donald Trump's has been. Barack Obama made it easier to carry, I don't know if it was by accident or not, but he made it easier for regular citizens to own machine guns and suppressors and short-barreled rifles. And Donald Trump, did the whole bump stock thing, right? So
when you say that Barack made it easier, how did he make it easier?
So it was previously you had to, before his administration, you had to get the permission of your local sheriff's department to purchase one of these, these cool guy guns, these special weapons. And then under his ATF, the direction of the ATF that he put in, they reframed the requirements so that you no longer required permission. You only had to give notice. So it made it much easier for individuals living in areas with highly politicized sheriffs. If your sheriff was a Democrat, there's no way he's going to sign off on your machine gun transfer. He's just not going to do it. So that was a big deal. And it's not many people talk about that. So I don't think when I look at who's in office, as a gun rights, that's the majority of my job is doing gun rights. I've noticed almost no difference. The states, the most of the restrictive laws come from the states, and they get fought through the courts, and generally the Supreme Court doesn't want to rule in on those specific, like they don't want to rule in on an assault weapons ban. They don't want to rule in on this stuff. Although, I mean, I think it's pretty clearly unconstitutional, the assault weapon ban. I think it's pretty clearly unconstitutional to have a national registry. The only hope we have for having these things struck down is if John Roberts on the Supreme Court, finally decides to, step up to the table and say, look, this is a core constitutional right, and we're not going to sit here and just sign off on the every single law you write anymore. There's going to have to be you're going to have some better support for your law aside from, it's scary or, gun violence is a problem.
Talking to Matt Larosiere over there at the Cato Institute. He's a constitutional lawyer, writes about the Second Amendment. And last question, I appreciate you coming on today. Going forward, 2020, it's coming. This is going to be one of those things that's going to be talked about amongst many of the other things that are out there is the Second Amendment. The battle's been there. We saw what happened in New Zealand, and everybody praised, the Prime Minister over there, Ardern. Well, look what you did. Within a few days, they got rid of all of these kind of things. And don't we wish we could be like that? Where do you see this fight going in the future as far as when we get to the point, let's just say we have a Democrat who has been very vocal, because a lot of times they talk a lot of game, but we know they're not going to do anything. But this newer progressive, they really want to do something. They really want to take aim, if you will, for lack of a better term, at a lot of these laws. Where do you see this going on a bigger scale for essentially taking on the Second Amendment?
Right. Okay. So the way it's going to go, it's all going to depend on how we as a people view and talk about these things. Right. So the assault weapon thing, that's going to be the big battleground moving forward. that's going to be the big battleground, and it's extremely important. The way, and if we want to protect our rights to have these weapons that are very important weapons, for personal defense, we need to talk about it straight on. We don't want to keep just arguing about their definitions and say, whatever. I recently wrote an article called Defense of Assault Weapons, which, to my pleasure, was published by a California publication. It's, we got to say, look, we do need these weapons specifically. And here's the reason why. And one great reason why is people always say, why do you need a 30-round magazine? Well, you look at the science. There's science to all this stuff. The average police officer has a 39% chance to hit each individual target in a stressful situation. And then each round, when you look at gunshot wound data from various hospitals, each round has about a 22% chance to stop the target. You do the math there, that's about 10 or 12 shots you need to be able to reliably protect yourself from one individual, okay? So when you know that, is a 30-round magazine from a reliable weapon like an AR-15, like an AK-74, really unreasonable? No, it's not. It's a matter of human rights. It's a matter of human dignity, right? It's not about protecting, having fun at the range or whatever. This is about protecting human life. And as long as we can talk about it like that and be emotionally intelligent, I think we can make some real progress.
You said emotionally intelligent. You're a funny guy, Matt. You're a funny guy. His name's Matthew Larosiere. He is a constitutional attorney over at the Cato Institute, contributor to Young Voices. Appreciate you coming on today, man. Thanks so very much. I really do appreciate the fact that you talk about stuff like this, and you use words like emotional intelligence and to talk about stuff. That makes me laugh. Thanks so much, brother.
Right on. Had fun.
Thanks. At Chad Benson Shows your Twitter, ChadBenson. And again, it's going to be talked about over and over. And today, we're not going to hear as much about the shooting yesterday in Colorado. Why? Well, because there were handguns. And there's nothing to talk about that. You can't come in and say, well, we need to get rid of handguns, because that's not going to fly, even amongst a good portion of people who want gun control. That isn't going to fly. It isn't. It's a political game. It's virtue signaling. And even if you come up with data in this day and age, it doesn't matter, because data, which used to be king, isn't king when it comes to feelings. Facts no longer matter. It's the Chad Benson Show.
Plea deal this.
Mueller, arrest me.
Chad will trade you 2 perjury charges for 1 collusion and throw in a reduced charge of obstruction for free.
Yeah, I'd do that.
For just listening to The Chad Benson Show.
This is a tough one to explain in a radio-friendly way. The sticker on the window of his pickup truck said, "I eat donkey," except it didn't say donkey. Instead, there was a 3-letter synonym for donkey. Think about it for a second. 23-year-old Dylan Shane Webb was thrown in jail in Columbia County, Florida, near Gainesville for violating the state's obscenity law and resisting after a deputy pulled him over and told him to remove the sticker. He said no. How would a parent explain that sticker to a small child, Webb says the deputy asked. He answered, it would be up to the parent. Webb says it's free speech, and he is threatening to sue.
Yeah. Look, it is free speech, and you know what I'm always amazed with, and it's stupid that people do those things. It's your cars, free speech, yes. That'll be the fight, and God knows this is one of those things that always ends up at the Supreme Court, and you're like, we're debating this? But I'm always amazed. I'll watch, like last week, I watched Live PD. I love Live PD. It's one of my must-see TVs. I'm amazed at people and the way that they deal with law enforcement. For all the crap that law enforcement gets. And look, let's be real. There's some bad apples out there. It's bad apples in everything. I'm always amazed at how stupid, ignorant, belligerent, angry people can be. And I am. And I watched a guy last week get pulled over on Live PD. You say, what? I know, that's right. Like, that's the whole reason for the show. He didn't have a license. I didn't think he had insurance on the car. His plates were expired. He had his work stuff in there. They told him, you got to pull it over. You can't be doing this. He talked his way from a warning into being arrested. And I'm like, wow. And then earlier, there's a guy who's got a little bit of meth on him, and he was cool, and he was up front, and he got a citation. It's just, wow. It's crazy. This guy's got something on the back of his car, and they just said take it off, covered up. He could have done something, and then taken it to the court if he wanted to do that. But instead, he talks him away in the jail, and I'm always amazed. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. In case you didn't know, we have a constitutional crisis that is currently going on.
We've talked for a long time about approaching a constitutional crisis. We are now in it.
We are now in it. But are you in it to win it? Nadler. Nah, probably not. You're in it to win it when it comes to screen time. That's politics for you right there. When you say constitutional crisis every 5 minutes, I'm beginning to think, I don't think you know what that phrase means. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Check out the Instagram as well. It is the Chad Benson Show.
This is the Chad Benson Show. Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Including his campaign's willingness and eagerness to accept help from a hostile foreign government, numerous misstatements, if not...
First of all, Nadler, where did he accept help? I'm curious about that. Where did he accept help? Well, I mean, you know, the Russians helped him. Yeah, but where did he accept the help? Because they said there was no collusion. I want to get this right. Right? Where did he accept the help? Just curious. Just curious. Where did he go out and accept the help? It came. Don't get me wrong. Right? But where did he accept the help? Like, where did he act? Did he actively participate? Where did he, you know, if it's coming, you're going to use it. Don't tell me that Hillary Clinton, if Pooter called her up and said, remember that thing you did with the button? I thought that was funny. And then all of a sudden, she goes, hey, do you got anything on Trump? And he's like, of course, got plenty on Trump. Crazy stuff. And then you don't think she'd have used it? Hell yes, she would have used it. Absolutely. She was looking for dirt. She was. So slow your roll there. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. You're awful.
Including his campaign's willingness and
You're
eagerness to accept help from a hostile foreign government, numerous misstatements, if not outright lies concerning those acts, and 11 separate incidents of obstructive behavior by the president that more than 700 former prosecutors have told us warrant criminal indictment.
They're right next to the 97% climate change. He's here. You're not getting rid of him. This is what it is. And I want to know, what do you have outside of this? Because it's another week of you guys working and doing absolutely nothing. It's another week of you guys getting nothing done. It's another week gone by where things that need to be handled aren't being handled. It's another week gone by where it is grandstanding and it is cameras and it's all for your small base that rabble rouses, and it's all for the media that's got nothing else to do but to fill time, and they can't stand this president. And to be honest with you, if you'd have given it to me straight, there's a lot of things I don't like about the president. There's a lot of things I don't like about the way he acts. There's a lot of things out there that I disagree with him on. But the reality is, the more that you dig in, I think in the long term, the more it's going to bite you in the ass. Because there's a lot of people out there I hear from. In fact, somebody just tweeted at me, talks about how much he can't stand the president, how much he can't stand the way the Republicans are, but how ridiculous this is, and he'll vote for him again. Makes me laugh.
The Democrats have no plans, no purpose, and no viable legislative agenda beyond attacking this administration.
Well, I'd like to see some stuff get done. I'd like to see some stuff get actually done. And I'd like to see some stuff that gets covered that isn't craziness. Politics for me, I used to enjoy politics. I like the battles of trying to get stuff done, but then seeing the thing through. And there isn't that anymore. Now it's just, I joked earlier and I'll continue to say, it's pantomime. It's kabuki theater. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. So go ahead, find him in contempt. Go ahead, impeach the president. Stop talking. Start walking. Right? Make like a frog and leap. Let's do something, or let's move on. Because it's boring all of us. Look at the poll numbers. Look at the poll numbers. Look, and I saw this poll today. You know, it's 57% of, I tweeted out, Democrats think he's treasonous. Oh, my God, it's absolutely right. I go, yeah, but you know what? The same amount of Republicans thought Obama was treasonous when it came to Iran and giving them money and cutting that deal. By the way, have you seen the deal? Have you seen the Iranian deal? Did you guys hear that they're kind of slowly but surely have given the Europeans 6 months to make 60 days to make us start to comply with some of the sanctions, or they're going to start producing again? What? Yeah. They're looking for hard water. They're looking to do some stuff. But the Europeans were, no, just, it's a joke. It's a joke. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet us. Here's something that I find to be interesting that they're doing that needs to be. Transparency is a wonderful thing. And in the medical world, we talk about this with healthcare all the time. We talk about this with healthcare so much when it comes to, we just don't know. Well, guess what? We may get some knowing when it comes to prices on things that do matter, like drugs.
This morning, Health and Human Services is announcing a new federal rule that will require drug makers to show the price of advertised drugs on TV. HHS Secretary Alex Azar hopes that by forcing transparency, it will push the pharmaceutical industry into lowering their prices. But industry executives are pushing back. Some have even offered to list the price on their website. HHS says that's not enough.
No, so it's essentially the right to know. See the TV ad, see what it says there, and that's what you're supposed to be paying. Of course, you got insurance and all this other stuff. It's interesting, right? It is interesting, and it's tough. And this is the weird thing about the medical world, right? And it's tough because insurance pays it. What's this insurance going to pay compared to that insurance? Who negotiates what? How is that negotiation gone? That's what we want, like in a lot of things in life, is just transparency. We want uniformity. If you're going to do it for one, why shouldn't you do it for the other? And I understand that in California, if you get your appendix out, maybe it's $7,000, and in Iowa, maybe $5,000. You've got different taxes. You may have different fees and codes and certain things that get added on in certain places, just like gasoline. But gas is at $30 in California, right? And $3 elsewhere, although California is doing its best to try to make it that way. Yeah, there is a disparity, but it's not so ridiculous. Right. And there is all kinds of weird stuff enough in there. You look at California, there's that weird fee that nobody knows what that is. That's 14 cents here. But a lot of that has to do with taxes. And I think people just want transparency.
List price very much matters to people. That's the price that's going to be disclosed in the ad. But of course, if you have insurance and there's a negotiated discount, you may be able to get it for less.
Yeah, which is true. You may be able to get it for less. And today, Anthony sent me a really cool article about a price tag for a drug that's going to go out on the market, and this drug's going to cost like $2 million. And people like aghast by that. Well, except for you got to also look at the demand for the drug. That's also a very big thing. 200 kids a year are born with this disease. That's it. 200 a year. Not 20,000, not 100,000, not a million. It's 200. So when you're developing something that takes a very long time to develop, that you've put billions of dollars into, where there's not going to be a lot of demand because it just happens so very rarely, we forget about a lot of these things. You know, it's when a disease, the fact is, when diseases, prices, and certain things start to really come down is when there is demand. And that's sad to say, but it's very true. Because then it's weird, but it's when things become kind of, whoa, that's kind of a hot thing. And then it becomes mass producing because there is a critical mass that needs it, that you get this kind of fall off in pricing because people are out there actively putting money into something that there may be mass opportunity to make money in. I get frustrated with Big Pharma too, but I also realize when it comes to Big Pharma is they're also a business. And in business, you're there to make money. You're not there for the betterment of your health. You're there to make money. And if you're going to risk money, there should be reward there. And a lot of times, I don't think the average person understands that. They think people are there for the betterment of themselves. Well, you should be here just because you want to be here, and you're doing this because of that. No, it's not the way it works. So when you only have a person every 2 days that's born with this disease, potentially, you say to yourself, we've produced something here that works with this. And a lot of times when they start producing a drug, it may not even be for that thing that they're going to end up eventually using it for that child or for that adult. It starts in over here, and then it finds out that, hey, the benefits for this is amazing. But at the same time, we can't produce this at a level that is going to be, we're going to lose our ass in this. It's frustrating, I know. I get it. But I think that for the average person, when it comes to drugs and how we want transparency. We'd all love it if it was free, but it's not. You know it, I know it, and I think most of you out there are wise enough and have enough understanding that you realize that people are there to make a profit, and without putting money in with the opportunity to get back out, eventually what you'll have is nobody will put money in at all, and then you just won't have any innovation. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You could tweet at us. Yesterday, a horrible shooting in Colorado that's getting a little bit of media attention, but not a ton. And one of the reasons is
we know that pistols were used in this assault. The number of weapons that were at the school and how they got in, we're not releasing because that's subject to the prosecution case.
Yep, 2 kids were arrested. One of them is a girl. And, you know, it's an awful situation. You had young kids that were heroes in this, much like with UNC last week, where you had kids that rushed. And I think that's the message that kids and people are finding out is in a situation like this, Sometimes you could be a sitting duck and you may pay with your life. And other times you say, well, you know what? I'm just like the people made that decision on Flight 93. It's if this thing's going to happen, let's at least go down fighting as opposed to being a sitting duck. And that's a horrible thing to say. And when you look at the numbers again, overall, mass shootings, I think what they say, we talked to the guy from the Cato Institute. What he said was less than 200 a year. But this won't get the attention because a gun was used. It was a handgun that's not on that evil list that's out there of mass shooters. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. And tweet us. Plus a girl, huh? How about that? A girl. Interested to find out what the thoughts were. What was it? What happened? Right? Because we don't see girls in this. This is normally young men, white men, who are angry at the world for whatever reason. A girl was mean to them. They were bullied. Mental health issues. Who knows? But it'll be interesting. And you normally don't see him in two. The last time we saw something like this, I guess, was at San Bernardino, right? But that was radical Islam. And she was the one that was really behind a lot of that. But this is totally different. This had nothing to do probably with religion and all to do with media stardom? Celebrity? 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. AMAC, great organization out there politically advocating on your behalf, trying to make things like Social Security solvent for the future, Medicare solvent for the future, common sense immigration reform. They're fighting for you in D.C. and elsewhere. And on top of that, they got great benefits, incredible benefits. You're over the age of 50. How about this? Retail, restaurant, hotel discounts, competitively priced insurance. Check, 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 check. Movie ticket discounts up to 50% off, amusement park discounts. Yeah, all of those things. And right now they're putting their money where their mouth is. 1-year membership, absolutely free. No tricks, no credit card required, nothing. Simple and easy. You just sign up. Go to amac.us/Chad or call 888-355-1617. That's 888-355-1617, 888-355-1617 or amac.us/Chad. Chad Benson Show.
Set Chad straight. Text the show, 323-538-2423. That's 323-538-CHAD. Someone has to do it. Might as well be you. The Chad Benson Show.
This report sheds light on why President Trump may be the first president in decades to refuse to disclose his tax returns. It also demonstrates irrefutably why the Congress is well justified in seeking those tax returns, as has been done now by subpoena. And the American people should be asking what's in those 6 years of current tax returns that Donald Trump wants to conceal.
Stuff, numbers, things like that. So yesterday, New York Times got a hold of 85 to 94 Trump tax returns. Super important. Did you guys feel it? Did you guys? I went to the mailbox this morning. It was like, oh my God, I got my Trump tax award. It was awesome. It's a free day off. No, it's not. Showed that he lost $1,100,000,000 plus, something like that. Almost $1.2 billion, somewhere in and around there. But then, if you talk to tax attorneys, they'll tell you it was all on paper. It wasn't real. The way that he carried things over was smart. Boom. Nothing, I mean, it's he played the code and his people played the code right in a way that was smart, and taking a loss on these things and in depreciation on these things was a smart thing to do. So in the end, did he really lose $1 billion, or did on paper it show he lose? Oh, he lost $1 billion, but that's all paper money, because it's all paper money anyways. It's not real, right? It's all pretend paper money. Well, what do we want to find out? We're going to go. We want to find out what the Deutsche Bank has done. We want to find out some of these shady loans he's got from people. We want to find out some of these things because we want to show that he's been up to some nefariousness. I have no doubt in my mind, I'm sure there's some stuff in there that's really not good for Trump in the way that he's done things, right? Does it rise to illegality? It skirts. I'm sure there's some things in there that skirt. Do some of them rise to the level of maybe being illegal and probably and possibly illegal? Oh, yeah. But I'm sure it skirts some of those things, and I'm sure there's some questionable stuff in there. But in the end, I mean, it's just this incessant, we're coming for you all the time. And I sit there and I shake my head and I think, God, is there nothing better that people can be doing with their time? We just talked about healthcare prices and the rising cost of things like insurance, the rising cost of drug prices. Is there nothing? You could think of nothing else to do. Like there's not one thing that you could think of that you can do and that could be covered. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that's it. You guys get them. Good luck. I wish you luck. I do. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. All right, kids. If you're trying to get your Uber or Lyft today, you may have issues with that. And we'll talk about that. Oh, my God. It's just insane. Plus, Arizona declares this evil. Chad Benson Show.
The Chad Benson Show.
Independent thoughts, independent life. This is Chad Benson.
Wall Street, great! Stop it now! 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 Wall Street, great!
Oh, those are Uber and Lyft drivers, the rideshare people. They're angry. They're so angry, upset. They're not treated correctly. It's awful. It's horrible. So today is a planned strike. Why? Uber going public today, and they're angry. So here's the places that if you happen to be in this part of the country, it differs in certain areas. San Diego and L.A., they're ceasing work for 24 hours. Atlanta workers plan to log off for 12 hours. New York, it's a 2-hour strike, but that's only between 7 a.m. Eastern and 9 Eastern, which are the busiest hours. London struck as well, and several other communities across the country will be striking today because of the greed and evil that is rideshare companies. What do they want? What do they want? They want more, kids. They want more. That's why they're uniting. They want more. They're upset about.
Both state courts in the United States as well as courts in other countries, there have been numerous cases, and both companies have warned that they really need to keep drivers as independent contractors if they want to ever reach a point of profitability.
Yeah, they want more pay, and guess what? They can't afford it. Uber lost $1.8 billion last year, which was a $400 million improvement from the $2.2 billion it lost last year. Oh, my God, Uber's horrible. Trump lost how much in a decade? They lost $2.2 billion the year before last, $1.8 billion last year. Oh, yeah. Of course, they want to keep it low. They want to make them independent contractors. And I just looking at the list of their demands, and it's different in different places, right? It's not everybody has the same thing. Like some people want, oh no, we want this, some people want like, we want to cap your commissions. Other people, they want an hourly rate. It's just amazing. Here's some of the stuff. So they want to cap 10% commission on drivers' earnings as far as so you earn, they're going to cap that right there. They want to introduce new hourly minimum wages. Some places, New York City's one of them. They want transparent and speedy appeals process when a driver's been deactivated, right? These are just a few of these things. But they demand better treatment. They demand steady work. Some of them want health insurance. They want overtime, paid sick leave, on-the-job expenses. Get a new job. Get a new job. How about that? How about you get a new job? Chad, that's not very nice. No. I'm not trying to be mean here, but it's amazing that you are an independent contractor. You come and go as you please. You can work as little or as much as you want. That was the whole thought process in this for using drivers now. The reality is you're a stopgap measure until they can figure out how to buy a fleet of cars and put them all over the city where there's no drivers whatsoever, which would be their ultimate goal, which isn't going to happen for a long time because as long as there's unions and things like that, they will fight the hell out of that to ever happen because you'll be taking jobs away from people, in particular cab drivers, who have powerful unions. But when I hear them, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this, then go find a different job that gives you that, and that. If you're unhappy with what you have here, you can go somewhere else and get that. If you're miserable, because if I had a job where I was miserable at it, you know what I did? I found a new job. I didn't demand all of these things. I just went and found a better working environment for me. And sometimes I hated the job, but the people were cool. Sometimes I loved working, but I hated the people. Either way, I went and found the thing that was right for me. That's it. It's crazy. But they're going to do this. This is what they want. And this is bizarre right here too. Oh, technology.
Uber drivers have seen consistently lower pay, and they're getting more and more frustrated with the company. And finally, it's hit a tipping point with the IPO as the executives are set to make a pretty penny, and Uber drivers are unhappy. Basically, just the frustrations that come when your boss is an algorithm. You don't have a person sitting across from you who's talking to you. You're really just being communicated to via a screen on your phone.
Yeah. They're going to make a lot of money. Well, that's, again, go to school, get a better degree, start your own business, become an executive, get your stock options, and go with it. Chad, you just sound like an awful human being. No, I look at something like this right here, and it frustrates me because when I read the list of demands, I often wonder, well, if you're so miserable, why don't you go somewhere else? Well, they can't. Why can't they? That's when I hear people say, well, they can't get a job somewhere else. Well, why can't they get a job somewhere else? Give me the list of excuses of why these people can't get a job elsewhere. And eventually you'll get down to, well, they're not qualified to do anything else. Oh, okay. So that's my fault? That's Uber's fault? That's Lyft's fault? That's your fault? It's frustrating as hell. I demand. You know what people demand? Cheaper rides. And I have taken God knows how many Uber and Lyfts on a daily basis for, doing all kinds of stuff. I mean, because I travel a lot, so I'm in a lot of these cars. I have met, out of all of these, very few that hate the company or dislike the company. Are they frustrated? Yeah. Well, they're frustrated. Name a person that's not frustrated somewhere a little bit with their pay, right? Mine is Bryce Harper and a few others. It's a baseball reference. He makes a ton of money. But they don't dislike the company. Oh, I wish they'd give me an hourly. I wish they'd give me this. Would you rather work for an hourly but no and tips? But, you're basically what you want to be is you want to be a cab company again. And that's not what it was set up for. Because the difference is I've also taken taxis in the same city. And something that cost me $50 in a taxi cost me $22 in an Uber. If it goes up to $50, they're not only not going to be profitable, they're just going to be another taxi company. 323-538-2423 at Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at me. Do love hearing from all of you. I try to get back to everybody as much as possible. It's not always possible, right? But I do try to get back to people as much as possible. I was reading this, talking of money, And here we go, Chad. So here goes the. Get ready, Phil. This is not politically correct. I'm going to say it. Get ready for the hate. So the U.S. women's soccer team is in a fight right now with the United States Soccer because they don't get paid enough, and they win and they want to get paid more. Then you had the women's pro hockey league. All the women said they're not going to play anymore because they just don't get paid enough. And this is the unpolitically correct. Nobody cares. I mean, nobody cares. But why? You should care. No, nobody does. I'm going to say it like the WNBA. Nobody cares. No, nobody. I know there are people out there that do care, but the reality is it's very few. For the NBA, you're a tax write-off. The NHL wants no part of the Women's Pro League here. And when it comes to soccer, girls, you may win, and it's fantastic that you're winning. That's great. In fact, the World Cup starts in less than a month, and I hope you win, and I hope you crush it, and I hope it's amazing. But yesterday, I watched Liverpool versus Barcelona, and no matter how great you think you're doing, it will never be anywhere near as enthralling as what I watched yesterday. And by the way, hundreds of millions have watched yesterday. Not a million, not 2 million, not hundreds of thousands, hundreds of millions watched yesterday. The money is so much bigger. And that's the reality. That's just the reality of it all. It's horrible. We want equal pay. For what? You're not bringing in equal money. You're not. You're not. Yeah, you're better than the men's team. Your competition's nowhere near what the men face. It's just not. And when it comes to women's hockey, oh my, I didn't even know they had a pro league at all. Just nobody, it's the reality is it's not as good. It's not. It's not as good. I said it. Politically incorrect? Absolutely. Honest? 100%. And again, I want my U.S. women's soccer national team to kick ass. I want them to do what they did 4 years ago when they won the World Cup. Absolutely. And I love it when our women go to the Olympics and they smoke everybody and they face Canada like they do every single year in the finals of, in the Olympic gold medal game. Fantastic. It's great. It's a great story. It's fun. But the reality is there's no money in it. In this day and age, there's just no money in it. There isn't. It's a hateful thing to say, I know. It's politically incorrect, I know. And I'll get bashed for it by several people out there. And there's always that one guy that watches the WNBA and says, men's basketball is horrible. Whatever. Get over yourself. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. Love hearing from you. They're battling it out on Capitol Hill today. Why? Well, because of, this whole thing with Trump and Barr and Mueller, and it just never ends, and it's so boring.
We now know he lost over $1 billion in a decade in the 80s and 90s. He was broke. No bank would loan him a penny. He was broke. And if it weren't for him being president, he'd be in prison with Michael Cohen today as individual one.
Actually, if it wasn't for him being president, Michael Cohen wouldn't be in jail today. Neither would anybody else, because everybody would have moved on. There's some truthism in that. There's some absolute truthism in that. If it wasn't for him being president, nobody'd be in jail out of this whole. And Michael Cohen's in jail because Michael Cohen did things like tax evasion and stuff like that. Failure to report incomes in the millions of dollars. Those are the reasons he's in jail. Let's remember that. But they didn't do anything. It's another week gone by. Nothing's happening. And, he's not the first Barr to be found in contempt. Eric Holder was also found in contempt. And I believe it happened immediately after they asked for stuff.
When the Oversight Committee held Attorney General Eric Holder in contempt, more than 250 days had passed between the subpoena and the committee's vote to hold him in contempt.
He said subpoena. Wake me up when they're all not elected again. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at me, MyPillow. I should get everybody that is in that committee hearing and stuff today. They were doing all that. I should get them all MyPillow so they can go to sleep and wake up when they feel like they can act like adults. MyPillow's incredible. They got sheets now. They got everything. But these sheets are amazing. You slide right into them. They're incredible. They're called Giza cotton sheets. And Giza is a small little area on the Mediterranean where they grow this cotton. They don't grow the sheets there. That would be amazing. But they grow the cotton there. And it's the only place in the world they grow it. It is incredible. You'll feel the difference. You'll sleep cooler. And the pockets on these things are deep, so you put them over any. So you get a queen, and you put it over, and you wash them, and then you put them on again. They're going to fit over and over again. Same thing with the king. It's amazing. Now's your chance to grab these things. Get your Giza cotton sheets today. 800-983-4975. 800-983-4975. Or go to MyPillow.com. MyPillow.com. When you use either the phone number or MyPillow.com, make sure you use code Benson to get the discount. It's MyPillow.com, code Benson. At Chad Benson Show. Twitter, ChadBenson. It's the Chad Benson Show.
Chad Benson Show, where we make no apologies, although we do say a few Hail Marys and Our Fathers now and then. Amen.
Today's announcement from Tehran about its commitments under the deal is an unwelcome step. I urge Iran not to take further escalatory steps and to stand by its commitments.
Wait, that's Jeremy Hunt right there. Wait a minute. What are they doing? What is Tehran doing? Well, what they're doing is, they're basically saying, you know what? We're not going to follow this little thing that we signed. We know America stepped out of it, but we promised the British and the Europeans that we were going to follow through with all of this stuff, but we're not going to do that. And we're going to start, looking for hard water and producing again and firing up these things.
Sanctions were lifted in exchange for restrictions on Iran's nuclear program. Should Iran cease to observe its nuclear commitments, there would, of course, be consequences.
What's that? That's the big question right there. This won't be talked about a lot because you got, focus on Barr being found in contempt, and you've got the craziness that's going on with Trump and his taxes. But this is real. And remember, even though we stepped out of the deal, the Europeans were still in the deal. And they're just going, we're not going to do it. And they said, if you make it so within the next 60 days that the United States lifts their sanctions, remember, we're not in the deal anymore. If you do that, we'll follow through with this. You mean you can't trust them? No, you cannot trust them. I know it's crazy, but you can't trust them. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You could tweet at us. On top of all of that today, guess what, kids? We finally have a name for the baby. I wonder how the baby is.
He has the sweetest temperament. He's really calm and...
he gets that from.
And he's just been the dream.
He's just been the dream. I wonder who he gets that from. Who do you think he gets it from? Now, is he going to meet the family? I want to know which family he's going to meet first. I think he's already met the other parts of the family, but I want to know about her family.
It'll be a nice moment to introduce the baby to more family, and my mom's with us as well. So it's been a really, here we go.
another great grandchild.
Yes, but I want him to meet your dad and stuff because he's fun. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. You can tweet at us. And of course, one of the big stories today, contempt. I find you in contempt. I do. You're a contemptress. So Barr's been found in contempt. I guess that's what we're going to go with. And we'll just turn our back and say, I got nothing else going on. You guys do what you guys need to do. Nothing's going to happen. It's only the second time that a person in the president cabinet, I believe, has been found in contempt. And guess what? The last two presidents. You had Eric Holder with Fast and Furious, and now you've got Barr with this. And the president said today, I'm also going to claim presidential privilege when it comes to this. And so there we go. So you guys got 100% of nothing. Boy, that was fun. 323-538-2423. At Chad Benson Show is your Twitter. The baby's name is Archie. Speaking of big-time things. We talk about all these big viewing numbers with stuff. Do you realize that when Princess Di and Prince Charles got married, almost 800 million people watched that? Think about that today, kids. That's huge. Have a great rest of your day. As always, night, Jack.
This is the Chad Benson Show.